I was that type of guy who sacrificed a lot of things in life to be a professional athlete. You know, like that's not gonna hurt your career, and maybe it's gonna even do well to your career. Guys, one question that I get a lot here on YouTube is pretty much like, Bernardo, what would you tell yourself if you could go back on time regarding jiu-jitsu? You know, like, so guys, this is such a great question, and I see a lot of people asking that here in the comments and this and that. So today I'm gonna answer this question. And guys, the way I'm gonna answer this question is very personalized for me. So, and remember, I was a professional athlete in jiu-jitsu. So I started jiu-jitsu when I was 14 years old. And I decided to do jiu-jitsu as my way of making a living. So I was a professional athlete since in the very early days. So I think like if I could tell two things to myself from that kid that started when he was 14, actually it would be three things. Would be one, I wish I had started some stand-up game very early on. So one of the biggest breakthroughs in my jiu-jitsu career was when I started wrestling. I just did like once a week for 1.5 years pretty much. And I had my best season in 2015. And I do think that wrestling was a very big part of that. So I would have told myself to do at least, to start like together with jiu-jitsu, some stand-up game, because I think that can help you a lot if you're hoping to become a professional athlete. I think if you have a really good guard and really good takedowns, that can help you a lot. So that was one thing. The number two would be to train more no-gi. I didn't know that no-gi would explode as much as it did in the last like 3 or 5 years. So my entire career, I pretty much did like 85% gi and probably like 15% no-gi or so. So I would have done more no-gi as well. And I started doing more no-gi when I moved to Marcelo's in 2013. I moved to New York. But I was already like my 4th year as a black belt. Then I started doing no-gi like every day or 2 or 3 times per week, you know, like. So anyways, I would have done more no-gi, especially if I had like a crystal ball that I could see that no-gi would explode. But this is not a regret, because back then the gi was actually bigger than no-gi. Like I think like there was the only big no-gi tournament was the ADCC. And there was all the IBJJF tournaments with gi and a lot of tournaments with gi and this and that. So I don't really regret that. And I think the third thing I would tell myself would be to also enjoy life a little more while you're still training very hard as a professional athlete. Because I was that type of guy who sacrificed a lot of things in life to be a professional athlete. You know, like I do remember like a few times I went to Europe to teach jiu-jitsu seminars, for example, for like 15 days. And I could have stayed in Europe 18 days and took 3 days to have fun and get to know Europe without having to work or train and this or that. But no, I would schedule my trips like I'm gonna arrive this day and I'm gonna leave that day because I have to train next day in Sao Paulo or New York or whatever. So I was always that type of guy who training was my biggest priority in life, period. And back then I didn't have family. I didn't have like a wife and kids and that. Only my wife, who in the beginning was my girlfriend and then became a wife. But that's one thing as well that I would tell myself, like, hey, keep making your jiu-jitsu career your priority. But if you skip 1 or 2 days to go have fun a little bit, to go do to go enjoy that new country that you got to visit because of jiu-jitsu, that's not gonna hurt your career, and maybe it's gonna even do well to your career because it's gonna give you a little break, it's gonna give you some motivation, and you're gonna come back even stronger to train more and more and more. But again, I don't really regret that, because at the same time, like that discipline, that determination, that will was what made me like a champion in jiu-jitsu. Ended up winning like 5 world titles, and then I stopped competing and built BJJ Fanatics with my 2 partners. So anyways, it's not like really a regret, but I wish. So if I'm saying I wish, probably it's a regret, right? But it's not like a really deep regret. But it's something that I would have told myself as well, like, hey, relax. And if you take 1 day off or 2 days off, it's not going to kill you. It's going to probably do well to you. And don't need to be so obsessed with the training and so paranoid about that you cannot miss one day of training and that kind of stuff, you know, like. So I think in my case, those would be the three things that I would probably tell myself, like do some stand-up game for that can supplement your jiu-jitsu. I actually tried when I was a blue belt, I tried judo, but it was not my thing and that, and wrestling was my thing, but unfortunately in Brazil, there was no good wrestling at all. Like wrestling is not popular in Brazil as it is over here. So stand-up game, do more no-gi, and develop like a good, strong no-gi game, because I was the gi guy doing no-gi pretty much. And then the last thing, like enjoy a little more as well. Don't be so obsessed with the training that you cannot skip a day to go travel in Europe or something like that, you know, like. And but guys, again, I think that this is, if you do jiu-jitsu as a hobby, and you started jiu-jitsu when you're 30 years old and you're 39 years old now as a brown or black belt or whatever, and you look backwards, I don't think like doing a stand-up game would be a huge priority for you, because I think your goals might be different. You know, like maybe in your case would be like, oh, I wish I had not trained as hard, and so I got that injury that I had to stop for 1 year. And it's sad. So I think it's totally different the way I look back to my career, because I was a professional athlete, versus any other person answering this question if they're not professional athletes, you know, like. So I want to make sure that this is very clear here, because maybe this thing that I kind of regret, it shouldn't be a regret for you, because you have totally different goals. And I always emphasize this in my videos, like nowadays my biggest goal in jiu-jitsu is longevity. So I wish I can be that guy that's like 77 years old and is on the mat and is training and it's rolling, of course, like lightly, but it's still rolling and this and that. And in order for me to achieve this goal, it's a totally different view and execution than being a professional athlete and trying to win the world championships, you know, like. So for example, nowadays I don't train every day anymore. I train 2 or 3 times per week, and I also do stuff when I'm not training. I don't roll for like 1 hour straight anymore. I normally do like 4 or 5 rolls, 5 minutes each and that kind of stuff, because my goal is longevity. So my goal is to maintain my jiu-jitsu, get my sweat, still stay consistent learning, share the mats with my students, teach my students and this and that. So it's a totally different goal. And I think we have to respect that. We have to try to analyze what are our goals with this art, and try to do everything we can in order to achieve those goals. So back then was to become a world champion, train as hard as I could, extract the biggest value I could from that professional career. And now things changed. Now it's more like longevity, share the mats with the students, still learning and that kind of stuff. So anyways, this is such a great question, and I saw so many people asking about it that I was like, okay, this is a pattern. Let me answer this question here to everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And guys, if you do jiu-jitsu, make sure to check my instructional videos at bjjfanatics.com. I have a series called Jiu-Jitsu for Old Guys that I have literally like every single subject that you can imagine. It's at bjjfanatics.com. Make sure to check that out. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next video. Awesome. Please help me out to grow my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. And to watch more videos, just click under see more videos. I hope you enjoyed.
BJJFanatics.com. Use the promo code YouTube Faria to get 10% off any instructional video. Improve your jiu-jitsu faster.